Welcome to the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. Our theme for 2025 is the future of work. Meaning is the new money. In a world shaped by rapid innovation and constant change, the pursuit of purpose and impact has never been more important. I'm Dr. John Dentico, your host, bringing over 30 years of experience in leadership, strategic thinking, and purpose-driven innovation. Here, we tackle the pressing challenges of our time, from the rise of artificial intelligence to the growing need for meaning in the workplace. Together, we'll uncover how leaders can ethically integrate AI to enhance decision-making and keep humanity at the heart of their organizations. Remember, amidst all the technological advancements, in the end, it's always about the people. This podcast is your resource for actionable tools, thought-provoking discussions, and inspiring stories. It's time to go beyond leadership development and focus on leadership impact, creating workplaces where people thrive, innovation flourishes, and meaning truly becomes the new currency. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Now, let's throttle up and dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome to the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. I am your host, Dr. John Dentico. With me today is Corey Peck, the multi-award-winning entrepreneur, operational strategist, and fractional executive who has built and led teams from 2 to over 7,200 people. As a former agency owner and global COO, Corey understands the chaos and complexity of scaling a business, and more importantly, how to fix it. Today, as the founder of Fractional Ops, Corey helps CEOs of B2B small businesses increase profit in 90 days through his Ops Transformation System, a proven framework designed to eliminate operational chaos and replace it with clear, structured, drama-free systems. A top operational excellence voice on LinkedIn, Corey serves as a trusted advisor to hundreds of founders at a world-leading tech incubator where he shares tactical tools that drive reliable growth across sales, marketing, finance, and people operations. Corey's mission is simple: free small business CEOs from day-to-day grind so they can scale sustainably and lead with clarity. Having experienced the stress, unpredictability, and burnout of being a hands-on founder, he now empowers others to build businesses that are resilient, profitable, and calm without sacrificing ambition or growth. Whether he's speaking about scaling smart, systematizing success, or turning chaos into control, Corey delivers practical insights that help leaders transform their operations and their lives. And I'm truly grateful for him to be here this morning. Good morning, Corey. How are you?
I'm great, John. Thanks for having me. That was a fantastic intro.
Corey, tell me a bit about yourself. Where did you grow up, and what in your mind were some of the fundamental influences in your life?
I grew up just outside of Toronto, Canada, in a small suburb. I always tell this story when I'm doing speaking. I was always very entrepreneurial as a kid. When most people were going out and just playing with their friends or going on bike rides, I would be coming up with ways to make these little businesses. And my two favorite stories I always tell is I once enlisted all the neighbors on the street to go find rocks in people's gardens and parks. Then we made a rock museum in my backyard where we would charge parents admission to come in. I had another one where there was a nicer end of town where all the children were a bit more well off and they had all the better toys. And so I went door to door and I cut a deal to bring all their really good toys over to my house. I would give them a cut of the funds that I would charge all the other kids on our street to play with these toys that none of us could afford. So ideas like this, I've always been doing things like this and having businesses along the way. With this company now, it's great to be working with so many founders on these new ideas that I get to help bring to life.
Oh, that's great. What a great story. I've had the pleasure of interviewing a number of people who have had similar kinds of upbringings that brought them to this particular point in their lives. So let me ask you this. You've grown teams from a handful of people to over 7,000. What's the biggest mindset shift a CEO needs to make as their company scales?
Yeah, absolutely. What I talk about often with founders is making sure that you're putting in the systems and processes and workflow automation and trying to leverage artificial intelligence to operationalize the 7 key areas that you need to in your business. The first being customer and value. And so that's where everything starts. You need to know really clearly who is your customer and what value you provide to them. The next area that you operationalize is what I refer to as strategy and planning. And that could be your go to market strategy, that could be pricing strategy, overall positioning. The next is your product and service. So coming up with ways to operationalize that to making sure you're creating the right product and service in the right way for those customers to get the value that you know you're going to from them. The next is people and culture. You need a team to bring this to life. And there's all sorts of HR operations. That's everything from your talent acquisition process to nurturing and improving and upskilling your team. Also making sure that people have upward mobility within the company done in a structured and equitable way. So that's another area. The 3 others are your marketing and sales, which a lot of people are familiar with, your operations and delivery. And so that's going to be your core service or product that people are actually paying you for. And then finally, finance and insights. This is the other area in addition to people and culture and marketing and sales. The finance and insights is what we get the most questions about. And it's really about tying in the financials that exist through that life cycle, from prospecting and finding leads and making those sales and turning them into customers, through your delivery of that, whether it's a product or service, making sure you're doing it profitably in a way that cash flows well. What are the areas you should double down on? What should you maybe be cutting back on? And ideally, you're connecting all these systems together so that you're getting as close to real-time data as you need so that you can make informed decisions as a CEO.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I'm a very practices, systems oriented person. In fact, leadership to me is a process. It's not so much about the inherent traits that an individual has. To me, it's much more about following a process. Anybody can be a leader if they understand the practices, in my perspective. I want to ask you this. In light of you're mentioning AI, which is revolutionary, it's changing everything. What would you say right now are the principles by which you would advise an organization to hire people? What should organizations be looking for when hiring people in the world of today?
When you think of what AI is able to do very well, it's able to complete tasks quickly. A lot of what we're seeing the use cases are right now are any kind of, writing or creation of something based on an input you're giving it. When I'm looking at building teams, either for myself or when I'm working with clients, I tell them to think of it almost as a hybrid team. So you have a hybrid human and AI team. And something that you're going to start seeing now, if you haven't already, is something called AI agents, where these are now basically little bots that can fully perform functions like a teammate would. Instead of giving a very specific prompt and it then outputs what you've asked, you can now give it tasks or objectives and it can start doing more of those types of outputs. And so when you're building a team of humans, you really have to lean toward creativity. You need to have people that have the ideas and can do creative problem solving. You need to have people that are, like in software, you would call these like solution architects, hearing a business problem and then coming up with how to achieve that opportunity and overcome that challenge through some sort of software or AI tool. And so that's a skill set that is already important, but it's going to become even more important. And when you think of a hybrid AI human team, you really need to make sure you're hiring people who can have the ideas and give very clear instructions, whether it's to another human or to AI. And you also need to make sure people can do that quality assurance, quality control, because AI is getting more powerful every day, but it does still make mistakes. We need to make sure that what we're getting back, you have someone who has the skill set and the know-how to correct the mistakes and then tweak those instructions for the next round so that if it was 90% accurate, next time is going to be 91% accurate and so on.
Is there anything else in terms of the folks themselves? What do you look for in the people besides the skill set? Is there something more than just a skill set is important to make sure there's a connection between the organization and the person?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in this day and age, what's going on in the world, the economy, and these new technologies, there's just a constant state of change. When you work with small businesses, growing businesses, especially startups, that's already a very chaotic environment and there's a lot of change happening anyways. You really need to make sure people have the resiliency to be able to be like almost pivoting on a daily basis. And not to overuse that word, but it is changing. When you look at what technology can do, you need people to be open-minded to use AI in different use cases. I think when I look to our clients that we support, the ones who are getting further ahead are the CEOs who are extremely open-minded to what this technology could do, even though they're in legacy businesses in many cases. And the team members who are putting up their hand, even though they're not experts at it, but they're saying, I'm looking to add this as a skill set. I'm looking to explore how this can make my job easier so that the human roles can focus on their high payoff activities instead of the more administrative or hands-on keyboard activities. And I think that mindset, that growth mindset, is something that's very important for any new hire.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've been talking about lately is hire for values. There needs to be a connection between that person and the organization in terms of basic value systems. Because especially in the world today, even though I've seen some articles talking about people needing to stay in an organization longer, you may get a person for 5 years and then they'll move on, not because they dislike you, just because they figure it's time for a change or time to move on. So I think it's important that values are a connecting point. Let me ask you this question. You created the ops transformation system to help CEOs eliminate chaos and increase profits. Can you walk us through what makes this system different and why it works so well for small businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the magic in this system is how it subdivides down to what is most important for the CEO at any given time. Every business is different. Every business has different levels of operational maturity within those 7 areas that I talked to. We call those 7 areas the 7 ops accelerators. And within those 7 ops accelerators, you have 3 levels of operational maturity. You may not actually be started yet, so you might have no level, but assuming you get to the first one, we call that framework. These are the guidelines, the behavioral norms. It might be sheets, templates, just basic instructions so people can know when this type of task comes in on any one of those 7 areas. They at least have a way to approach that. When you take it from a framework to the next stage of operational maturity, we call that flow. And flow is when processes start going in. And when you think of a process, it's a group of tasks that are done in sequence to get you to a desired outcome. And that's very important to map what the steps are in order, but also who does what steps. If you've ever seen a swim lane diagram, you have all the roles in different rows, and you have the task moving between the different people from start to finish. That's key to make sure you can do things consistently, that you can understand where the process is breaking down, where it can be improved. And then finally, we move to fusion, the highest level of operational maturity. This is when you're taking that process that you made in the flow stage, and now you're putting in workflow automation. Now you're putting in AI, and you're also connecting the different 7 ops accelerators together. So this is where you may have an automated way of collecting customer feedback that is being sent to your strategy and product team so they can update their marketing so that they can hire the right people in their pipeline. And it's putting all that together. And that's really where the power of this comes from and where you can create leverage as a CEO. All this starts with what we call our operational maturity assessment. I'm happy to give your listeners a copy of this as well. Based on what your priorities are, it will do an assessment of all the areas of your business based on the answers you give. And it will then give you what we call our 90-day ROI action plan. And so it's going to give you very specific objectives, key results, and tasks that you and your leadership team should be doing to help move the right areas of your business up one level of operational maturity. It's less rigid than other systems, and something that I created just over my years of running businesses and helping other CEOs.
Great. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, I think systems are important. People need structure, but within that, there has to be a level of creativity as well. I mean, you may see something in the process that doesn't work. And somebody's got to be able to voice that and say, hey, we need a change here because we just can't keep going along. Systems are important, and without a doubt. You emphasize building a business that's resilient and drama-free. What operational systems or practices have the biggest impact on reducing stress while increasing profitability, in your opinion?
I think there's a few that have the biggest impact when we come into an organization. Sometimes you can feel the tension. People are unclear even on some of the basic points of information about the company. Part of it is making sure you have a very clear and compelling vision for the future, that it's documented. And there's different frameworks for this. Sometimes people use scaling up or EOS, but the common thread is the team has to know where you're going because you need a direction. So I think that's one. And often people just don't, it's not even documented. Like they think they know, but if I were to walk around the office and ask each person, what's this company try to achieve in the next 3 years? Most time no one either has an answer, or if they do, they definitely don't have the same answer. So the people that can just reinforce that consistently as CEOs are the ones that you can see just that alignment. At least everyone's clear on that. So I think that's number one. Number two is having very clear and defined roles. I think where this falls down for most people is it shows up like teamwork on the surface, but what's actually happening is you're just like reducing your leverage because now you have multiple people all trying to do the same task while other tasks aren't getting done. And then what also happens is you don't have that clear accountability. And so that's where the finger pointing happens if your culture isn't as good. That's where you see a lot of work getting like 5% done instead of anything getting 100% done. And so a lot of that has to do with people not having clear priorities. When everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. I remember we walked into this business once with the CEO and they had 168 key priorities across the business. And it was a larger 50 million or so revenue company. Everything was like 1% or 2% done. So we put in the OKR framework called Objectives and Key Results. And we helped them clarify what is that overall theme of the objective that they have to achieve as a business. And then what would have to be true for them to achieve that. And so that's where the key results came in. We were able to quantify them and set them out. I challenged the leadership team to pick 3. You get no more than 3. It's very hard to take a list of almost 200 down to a few dozen. But once we did that, everything started getting done. Now you had focused effort moving forward on a few key tasks, and that's helped that business grow. That's helped that business navigate what's happening in the world, and they continue to do so. Now that muscle's built into the business. And so you talk about accountability, the culture, and reducing the drama. When they have the meetings, and I think that's where a lot of this falls down for people. People will set objectives, they might set what's priorities, but they forget to meet on it. But that could be forgetting to meet in a town hall format once a month. That could be forgetting to meet quarterly to plan. That could be forgetting to meet weekly with the departments, their direct reports. And that's where this falls down. I've seen a lot of people do a really good job documenting it, but then they forget to actively manage it. The ones that I see succeed will make sure those meetings are just in the calendars, repeated, same time, same day on these different initiatives. And that consistency in of itself creates accountability because no one wants to show up to that meeting without their numbers hit or without an update in front of their peers.
I am a big believer in strategic thinking and a huge believer in an organization having a very cogent one-sentence mission statement as the alignment, as the beginning of the alignment for people to understand this is what this company's about, this is what they do, and this is where they're going. And I think it's so important. I think too often organizations craft a mission statement for everything outside of the organization. They want to show the world, this is who we are. Aren't we great? Love us. And okay, that's fine. It has a lot to do, has an impact certainly on brand strategy. I get it. But a lot, for me, the importance of a mission statement is really for the people inside the organization. What is the alignment? Why are we here? What are we doing? What is our value system, if you will? How do you expect? In fact, I did a presentation a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking about finding meaning. That's my theme this year. The future of work. Meaning is the new money. Okay. So how does an organization exemplify that a person who hires on with them is going to find meaning? Well, they have to, in their mission statement, they have to really express their values. But there's the other side of the equation for me, and that is, how does a person who's a job seeker or who's looking to hire on with a company, how do they know that this company will give them the opportunity to find meaning, to do something meaningful, to have impact? And I told this group of people that if you run into an organization that has a mission statement that's 7 paragraphs long, move on. If you have the ability to do it, find another company because they don't know who they are. It's just like you said, we just say 116 different priorities. No, You can't have that. You have to be very firm and very direct. Too often, those companies, in my opinion, are trying to make everybody happy. They're trying to check every box, if you will. And yet, in the end, they wind up, as you said, checking no boxes, checking no important boxes. So I'd love to get your reflection on that idea.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. So, I mean, just to share ours, right? They're both one sentence. So our mission is to free small business CEOs from day-to-day operations. That's what we're here to do. That's what's in our job postings. That's what's part of the interview process. That's what is part of the onboarding. That's what everyone here on our team needs to be able to do, whether you're an employee or a contractor or a supplier to us. Our vision is to be the number one business resources. Our vision is to be the number one business operations resource for CEOs of growing small businesses. So there's so many places that when people are growing a small business, now I'm talking about under 100 million in revenue. So it could include startups, but it's really people that are well on their way. There's so many challenges that will happen as you keep hitting those other layers. And there's so many places to go. And what we're really on a mission to do is to free them from the operations. We then have to be the number one. And so across those 7 areas and those 7 ops accelerators, that's really what we're leaning into. And we do that by constantly improving our own ops transformation system, but also making sure that we're hiring the best people in all those areas. So on our team, for example, like we have fractional COOs, which is primarily the business that we're in. We also have what we call ops experts. And so these are like highly specialized people in all of those 7 areas. So, you know, if you're putting in a CRM, we have a whole team that are experts at that. If you're trying to do go to market with AI or cold outbound email, we have experts in that. If you are in HR, we have experts in people who stand up HRIS systems or put in your structured raise matrices or build career ladders for you, all this stuff. And then obviously on the finance end, controllers, CFOs, things like this. And so for us to do that, it drives everything. And so why I give that example of if I need to free small business CEOs from day-to-day operations, that means that we need to have the process and team to help them do so. And it makes it very clear then when I'm posting new roles or when I'm talking to my team in internal meetings or when we're making content for our marketing, if it's not in support of that, it's just a filter, right? Like we'll throw it out if it's not supporting that directly. And I think that there's an opportunity for a lot of CEOs to get very clear on what their mission is and also what their vision is. And to lift up your earlier point, if you can't do it in one sentence, you probably just haven't done the work to distill it down enough. And so I agree, like coming into a place where they know their mission, they know their vision, they know their core values, they know where they're going, they have goals, there's numbers, they're measuring it on some sort of dashboard or scorecard every week. That's how you know that company is really dialed in and that CEO is laser focused on where they need to go.
I agree. I agree 100%. I mean, and there's so much confusion today. You know, I'm sure you've walked into organizations where they have a mission statement, but it's hanging on the wall and they never use it. They don't breathe it. They don't live it. They don't, in a sense, do it every day. And all that does is defeat the purpose, as you said, defeat the purpose of clarity for the people and for the organization. And I'm sure the people who work with you on your team know what you're all about. This is who we are. This is what we do. And this is where we're going. And that's just absolutely commendable. So thank you for that. I appreciate that very much. You've advised founders at a world-leading tech incubator. What patterns do you see among early stage or growth stage CEOs that hold them back from scaling with confidence? Let me ask you that question.
Yeah, and I'm definitely painting this broad brush, but I think a theme I would say that emerges with very early stage tech founders, especially in like startup, is that because a lot of them are technical founders, right? And a lot of them have a product-led growth strategy that they're intending on putting out when they go to market. And a challenge that I see often is that they don't test enough. So they're not getting it in the hands of enough potential users. They're not out in the real world, even if it's not built, like just pitching it like, hey, if I were to build this tool, would that be of use to you? Like just trying to get feedback. So a lot of what I see is very inward looking. And so, you know, the saying that goes around is you can spend 10 years building the perfect product that no one wants. And that's what I try to help people avoid in those situations. Like you do need to get that market feedback. You do have to test and learn. One of the advantages of being a startup is that you're super small and you can change direction on a dime, right? And so I think spending way too much time developing without any real world feedback is something that can hold people back. I think the other thing I've seen, and this is more in my direct experience, but like sales is so important in any business. And I've seen founders have these opportunities that are coming to them, whether it's because they're in these big incubators or just because of where they're networked, but they will turn down the opportunities because they don't think they're ready. And I think that's something that I've seen hold people back. Like I've even brought opportunities to people where I meet them, I say, hey, actually, I have a client that absolutely needs this right now. And they have money. And because they're so small, a lot of times, like the annual recurring revenue of these startups, like if I bring them one job from a client, that like 10x's their revenue right away because these are enterprise clients or larger clients. And they'll just turn it down because they just like, oh, I think I just want to do more product updates or and I'm trying to explain like they're already going to get value from what you have. Take the opportunity and then grow it from there. And I've had time and time again, people just shut that down. And then some of them, they don't exist the next year. The whole company went under due to lack of cash flow. And so I think it's one of those things that you don't want to, of course, agree to something you can't deliver on. That's not what I'm saying, but you have to be able to start getting out there and trying to provide real value. There's a great sales trainer, Jack Daly, who always talks about perceived value versus actual value. And he's saying before you've bought something from anyone, all you can do is buy off perceived value. And so that's going to be, their brand, their reputation, what you know about them, testimonials. But once you start working with them, it's now real value from that point onward forever. And that's a scary jump, I think, for a lot of early stage founders because they have a lot of hype and there's a lot of excitement. They're in these like really safe incubator supportive environments. But once you go out and someone's going to give you a large check to perform a service or use your product, I've seen that unnerve people at times because you're vulnerable. You're putting yourself out there, and that's where stuff can also go wrong. So those are the two things I see in the very early stage that hold people back.
Yeah, I'm absolutely a great believer in rapid prototyping. In other words, minimize your risk, minimize the things that you feel are going to hurt you in a sense. But you have to be able to develop and test. Develop something, test it with the notion that in rapid prototyping, you're not going to get it perfect the first time. You're not going to get it right. But you keep iterative process, keep moving forward, changing things, moving along and different things like that. And in the end, you will develop you faster. You'll get to market faster with a product or a service that matters. And you'll learn so much along the way. And so I'm a great believer that the future holds, or the future will be owned, let me put it that way, by people who are not afraid to do rapid prototyping. Pilot programs, you could use that terminology as well. Try something. Try it. Okay, sure. It may not work, but you're going to learn so much from it and be able to really develop your products and services at a much faster rate rather than, as you say, trying to get it perfect, working on it for 10 years. There's an accounting term they use, the cost of perfect information, right? The cost of perfect information. You want perfect information, but by the time you get it, everything's been overcome by events. So in the end, you wind up losing in the long term.
Is the enemy of great or whatever that's saying.
That's right. Yeah. Perfect is the enemy of good enough, I think it is, or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, and you just got to try and jump in and don't be afraid. You'll learn a lot. And people, I think, Corey, I just have this feeling sometimes that people are afraid to make a mistake. They feel as though there's some vulnerability there that they feel deep down inside that if I make a mistake, what is the world going to think about me? That kind of a thing. The answer is no, forget about what the world thinks about you. Care about what you think about and try to move you and your organization forward. So I really appreciate that comment. You talk about chaos being a choice in business. That's a powerful idea. How can leaders start replacing daily firefighting with calm, structured operations? We may be a little bit redundant here, but I think I want to peel that onion back a little bit, maybe from a different perspective. Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. So a phrase I use often is you want to move from firefighting to fire prevention. And how you're doing that in the world of business operations is just creating that clarity across all parts of the business. So again, vision, goals, key results, what you're tracking every week, like that has to be documented. You have to meet on it, more importantly. and you have to be doing that consistently. What the roles are and who does what, the better you can onboard a team member with that is going to reduce that chaos. I actually have in our business they're like 72 page long, like full 90-day onboarding plans for every single role. And it tells them why this role exists, how it supports our mission and vision, how it supports me in the CEO role. And then I have basically like a 90-day boot camp where I said, week 1, these are all the things you're going to learn. Here's all the links to where that is. Here's all the video training I've already done. Here are the tasks you're going to do. Week 2, you're going to do this, and so forth and so on. And it's so specific. And there's also these interdepartmental connections between it, where on week 3, they meet this role and they work on that. And so it just makes it very clear, like what they're supposed to do, why that role even is here, what they're accountable for, what their numbers are. And that alone helps reduce the chaos because they know what to do. And then it's more just, is that the right person for the role? And that's a different assessment, but at least they know what they need to do. I find a lot of times when the chaos comes in, it's because people are filling in the blanks. And there's that saying, nature abhors a vacuum. And when you have an absence of information in clarity and instructions, people just start filling it in with their own ideas. And then that's where that missed expectations comes from. That's where you get inconsistent results. And really, when we use that ops transformation system, it's designed to just provide clarity all across the business, not just at the high level, at the leadership level, but down into the day-to-day. And it's a massive lift. Like, you're not going to do a wholesale change management across the business in one shot, but by starting to get a little more structured and being a little more purposeful about how you set goals and how you work with your team and making sure that day-to-day reflects that, that alone reduces a lot of the chaos. The key with reducing chaos is you have to be committed to it as a CEO. I think a lot of people say, I wish things just, these are things I hear all the time. Like, I wish things just worked. Why doesn't anyone do what I say? Why is my revenue's growing, but my profit's shrinking? I hear all these sound bites when I'm meeting people for the first time. And what I find is that the ones who are able to commit to, because it's going to take, like, change takes like 18 months usually to do like a massive change in a business. So if you're able to commit and be consistent and know there's going to be downs before there's ups, that's where I see people have success. I think those who just say it, it's more of like a wish, but they don't want to follow the plan. Those are the ones who will likely continue to forever struggle because it is hard. Like, if it was easy, every business would be running completely smoothly.
Yeah. And I think many times, I think organizations, people figure it's going to be just one day it's this way and the next day it's another way. And it's not that way at all. What happens is you gain certain percentages of efficiency and effectiveness as you go down the road. And then hopefully people will see that and they become believers. So you can build a critical mass. And then eventually when you get that critical mass to a point, it falls downhill and it goes downhill and people are on board and everything's starting to work and get better. It's not perfect yet. You'll never reach perfection, so to speak, but at least people become real believers in the systemic change that's happening. So I agree with you. I think you institute the change, you get down the road on the change. You said 18 months, maybe you get down 4, 5, 6 months and people are starting to realize things are changing and it's getting better. And then people believe. And once you got people to believe and they say, yeah, this is a lot better than it used to be, I think that becomes, in a sense, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. That people just begin to say, hey, yeah, this is the road we need to go down. So yeah. I absolutely agree. And
as a CEO,
go ahead.
As a CEO, you have to think of change as a journey, not a destination. Like, it's never going to be done because once you change one area of the business, you've likely grown. Now there's something else that has broken. You need to address that, or something else that's now not good enough and you need the next level. So very dangerous when people think that they're going to complete the task and then everything will just work. Like, all it's going to do is open up another challenge, but it's also another opportunity for them to grow. There's a great piece of information out there called the change curve. If people Google it, you'll see there's a typical journey that a company will go through in change. And the same is true for the people in it, right? You have that initial, jumping in, initial optimism. Then you have that slide where everything sucks. And then you have the rock bottom. And there along this time, that's when everyone starts quitting and leaving if they're going to. It usually happens there. And then you start getting little micro wins. But as a leader, you have to be able to look for them. I think that's what's hard. Like, sometimes they're there, but you're not paying attention. And so it's very important to, once everything's become bad because the change is hard, find those micro wins and just like almost over celebrate them, like in your town halls and your weekly meetings with your team. Say, hey, we just got, we just, yeah. So I'll give you an example. People who do any kind of cold email marketing, or they're doing more outbound when maybe they used to rely on inbound. It's one of those things where just setting that up is a massive change. Putting in the systems, processes, a CRM, all the things to manage that is also a massive change. Changing the attitude towards sales is a massive change. But when you start getting your first positive replies, where someone replies to an email outreach you said and says, hey, yeah, I'm interested. Could you send more info? On one hand, you might say, like, that's not even a sale. That's nothing. Like, why are you celebrating that? And that's the mistake. And yes, that is true. But the better way to do it is to start high-fiving everyone that was involved to say, hey, we went from having no proactive outreach to now we have someone saying they're interested on something that we did and it didn't come to us. High fives all around. And then you want to go small positive replies to more positive replies, and then turn those into meetings, turn those into sales or downloads or whatever your business does. But that's the key. So you have to be that cheerleader sometimes in that CEO seat, because change is hard and it's already hard enough, and they don't need you as a CEO making people feel more stressed about it. That's going to work against you.
Yeah, little victories matter. Little victories matter a lot. It's all about raising the belief, and you got to believe. People got to say, this is the choice we made. And if we don't believe, we'll just go back to where we were before. And that's not where we want to be. So I absolutely agree. I'm going to ask you, we're getting close to the end here. So I'm going to ask you my last question, which is, I've asked people all over the world, if you had a magic wand and you could wave it at anything that you see in the world, in the work world in which you deal with, what would that issue be and why did you choose that?
Yeah, for sure. I think something that I wish could go away with a magic wand is the lack of psychological safety that exists in a lot of organizations. Again, we help lots of businesses, and we help businesses that are just idea pre-revenue startups all the way to multi tens of millions, getting close to 100 million in revenue. And the ones who succeed, regardless of the size, their CEO and their leadership team are very good leaders. They're very good managers, which is also like almost more important, I would argue. But they create an environment where it's clear where they're trying to go. So you think of it like a coach, like any kind of sport, like you score more goals than the other team. You want to win the games, win the playoffs, win the championship, right? Business is very similar. And so if you've created that end goal, and you know that people are going to have a bad shift or a bad period, bad quarter, wherever sport you're playing, it's the ones who are able to reinforce what the expectation is, help the team member believe in themselves, and send them back out there to achieve it. And I find the ones that do that overcome the external challenges a lot quicker, and they eliminate those internal challenges. On the flip side, there's sometimes where we walk into a business where, like, objectively we're changing so much in the business for the better, and things are measurably much more efficient, they're much more clear, but there's still at the top a culture where it's very fear-based, it's very, like blame-centric, I heard was a term once. And that's something I wish went away, because business is hard, change is hard. You don't need then a leader, whether it's like a mid-level leader or at the top, just creating that environment for people, because that's just where you start to spin. And then people go into, they're trying to cover for each other. You start hiding key information. Things that are going wrong stop getting surfaced up so that you could actually address them and solve them. And so you get a lot of surprises all the time. And these are things I see. So my magic wand would be eliminate those behaviors from all the organizations. I think it would just be a better place to work overall.
I absolutely agree. I think that is so absolutely right on the money. I mean, I talk about the leadership model I started developing 30 years ago that has one premise. And the premise is, the foundation is contribution, right? We have an issue, we have a problem. Does anybody got any ideas? Anybody want to help? And the key element, one of the key elements, there's a number of different elements to it, but one of the key elements is safety. People have got to feel safe that they can say whatever's on their mind, whatever they feel, whatever they think. Because if you don't, you'll never reach full collaboration. You'll never bring them into a collaborative spirit, a collaborative organization, if every time they say something, they're afraid somebody's going to knock them, or put them down or anything like that. I could go on for hours about talking about the fear-based system we know as bureaucracy, because that's what it was founded on, fear. It was founded on fear by sociologist Max Weber in the early 1900s. And yet we're still dealing with that today. And now what we're trying to do is shift this fear-based system to a trust-based system. And because trust to me is the fuel that runs the engine of every organization. So it's a very, very difficult thing to do, because there's this tension all the time between, hey, we want to trust people, we want to be collaborative. And then you've got people, as you say, who are the naysayers, who are operating from a fear mentality. And I think it's just it's just as you say, it's very hard. It's very difficult. And you've got to have open-minded people at the top who say, listen, we've got to put away this fear idea and really work on a basis of trust. I'll give you the final words on that.
Yeah, for sure. So when you talk about trust, trust is earned, right? It's not given. And one of the ways to earn trust is a great saying my business coach used to say to me all the time, which was, as leaders, we get the behaviors we exhibit and tolerate. And so as a CEO, you need to really think of what behaviors maybe are you not exhibiting that you could be exhibiting more of, and what are the things that you're tolerating that you shouldn't be. And the key to building that trust, I feel, is how you actually address these. So you don't want to exhibit the right behaviors in a, boastful way, or why can't you do that? I can do this. I think that's the wrong way to do it. Same with tolerating. If someone's doing something wrong, you want to, in the moment, again, provide the correction to the behavior and be soft on the people, hard on the problem, right? So this is what's happening. I know you can do better. I believe in you. This is where we have to go. What questions do you have so we can make that happen? So they need to get the feedback as an employee, but you just want to do it in a very constructive way. And so if you can exhibit behavior as well and lead by example, and you can not the bad ones, but do it in a respectful, constructive way, and do it in the moment, don't let it fester. Like, you see it, say something right there. What's going to help you move far ahead as a leader, much further than you would have otherwise.
I agree. Wonderful. Listen, Corey, thank you so very much today here on the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. I really appreciate it. Done a great job. And I think you've brought forward things that people really need to consider in the institution of systems to help organizations move along the path. I appreciate your time today. I wish you all the success in the future. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, John. Thanks for inviting me. Appreciate it.